And welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit. Absolutely thrilled to be back, well and truly on the road to the start of the 2024-2025 NBA season. Now, as I alluded to last week, I'm going to start ramping up the content and some of the insights heading into next season. Today, we've got a big episode in store focusing on some of the untouchable players. Now, what I mean by untouchable is that essentially there should be no concern that these players are traded. If you're in the front office, it is top of the priority list that you keep these players well and truly happy, well and truly in their respective market, and that you build around them essentially. Looking forward to getting into that momentarily. Before we do so, though, I have some very quick odds and ends. But even prior to that, just want to give a shout out to both Stadium Scene and The Cover. Thrilled to continue to be a part of those two networks, continuing to showcase all of my work here at the Daily Dribble, as well as a whole host of other content creators in and around Australia, New Zealand, the US, and Canada. Very appreciative of all their continued hard work and support of me here. And likewise to you guys out there, all my avid listeners and followers, should I say. The socials have been going off during the week. The action has been non-stop off the court. And you guys have been sure to let me know your thoughts on everything that's transpiring across the off-season thus far. So really appreciate it, whether you're following on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. It really does mean a lot. And I love speaking to you guys on the regular. So really appreciative of all that continued support as well. Without further ado, though, let's get on to some quick odds and ends, and starting first and foremost with the Olympics. Now, it's officially concluded, and to the surprise of absolutely nobody, the USA claimed the gold medal, outlasting the host France 98-87 to secure the gold there. In the bronze matchup, Serbia defeated Germany 93-83. So we had US number one in the gold, the host France silver, and then Serbia, led by Nikola Jokic, claiming the bronze. LeBron James. Now, it's almost ridiculous what he continues to do on the regular. He's just months away from turning 40 years of age. He was crowned Olympics MVP after averaging 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists. There's not enough superlatives to explain how incredible he is. I am continually amazed at what he's able to produce. As I said, a couple of months away from turning 40 years of age, 17, 8, and 10 in the Olympics, still the head honcho of the Lakers. You could make a case for AD, but it's not the case. It is LeBron's team, and it is still LeBron's league, essentially. Incredible, incredible achievements for a 40-year-old player, and very excited to see what he can do this year in the purple and gold. As a Lakers fan, I'm not holding too much stock into this season, but whatever they achieve will come down to LeBron. The successes will come purely down to LeBron, and if they're to have any hope, they need this continued output from a 40-year-old player. Unbelievable. The King continues to dominate. But yeah, as I said, to the surprise of no one, the US clinching gold there. Off the back of a stellar Olympics campaign himself, Aussie legend Patty Mills has agreed to a one-year $3.3 million deal with the Utah Jazz. Returns to the NBA for his 16th season. As I said, after a really strong campaign for the Boomers there, didn't quite eventuate in a medal, but showed some really hot flashes and was probably the pick of the players alongside Josh Giddey and Dyson Daniels, you would say there for the Boomers. Certainly a handy piece for the Jazz, and probably not even so much for what he actually brings on court. As he starts to age and wind down the clock, it's more about what he's going to bring from a leadership and mentorship perspective for these young players that the Jazz currently house. I said it, I believe it was last week or the week before, if you tuned into the show, I think the Jazz are going to be a really plucky team. They're not going to, they could potentially push for a playing spot, but I think on any given night, they're going to be quite a tough out. So yeah, with the acquisition of Patty, very excited to see how they go. After 10 NBA seasons, Joe Harris has officially retired from basketball, played 504 games in the NBA for the Nets, Cavs, and Pistons. Across that career, he averaged 10 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist and a half per game, but is most aptly known for his three-point shooting. Across his career, he averaged 43.6%, which is elite. It is elite of the elite. He went above 47% for 2 seasons there, was the just ultimate role player. I think every team would have loved to have had a Joe Harris at their disposal. Didn't need the ball, but could still make an impact. As I said, 43.6% across your career. That's incredible going. So a big loss there for the league. Enjoy retirement, Joe. Again, another player I think that's got enough in the tank that the NBL should be targeting. The league is thriving in its own right, but having some of these former NBA players, marquee names, I think would be really advantageous. And, who did I speak about the other week who was retiring? Forgive me, I've gone blank there, but Joe Harris, I think, would be a really handy addition to any squad down here in Australia. A man who used to ply his trade here in Australia, LaMelo Ball, is planning to wear ankle braces for the 2024-2025 season. Now, he'd originally planned to wear them for last season, but never felt quite comfortable with them, and thus, off the back of that, after not wearing them, suffered another season-ending ankle injury. I know the league is certainly hoping, the league and myself included, should I say, to see a healthy full season of LaMelo Ball. It's undoubtedly one of the most exciting prospects in the league. He gets bums in seats, must-watch TV. Hopefully, having these ankle braces on can be a bit of a catalyst for him getting his career back on track. Now, as I said, we've seen flashes, we've seen instances. What he can do, he can rip apart games. He's one of the flashiest, best ball handlers going around. He really does a little bit of everything, but it's just a shame that we haven't really seen him hit, full tilt yet due to those injuries. So here's hoping that these ankle braces can turn the tide for him. Watch this space. I know Hornets fans would certainly be waiting with bated breath to see the comeback of LaMelo Ball. Big friend and former co-host of the show, Lee Hancock, mate, would love to hear your thoughts on the Hornets, what your takes are for this season. Do you think they could potentially surprise people? Do you think LaMelo will stay healthy, or is it just full tilt built around Brandon Miller? Very interesting times there in Charlotte, nevertheless. Guys, let's push ahead.
The Daily Dribble.
Okay, that concludes Odds and Ends. I mentioned this at the top of the show, a little segment. It's going to be a 2-part series because if you're a long-time listener here at the Daily Dribble, you know I love 2-part series. A 2-part series called The Untouchables. Now, as I said, this is going to be running through some of the players on their respective teams who are untouchable in trade talks. If you're in the front office, the thought of trading them shouldn't even cross your mind. So what I've got 5 players this week. I'm going to have 5 players next week. Would love to hear from you guys what I got right, what I got wrong. I'm sure some things here I will have got wrong, but would love to hear your thoughts nevertheless. Let's start first and foremost with my first untouchable player from the Sacramento Kings. I've got De'Aaron Fox. Now, absolutely a case could have been made for Sabonis. He averaged 19.5 points, nearly 14 rebounds and 8 assists last season. I've given it to Fox, though. He averaged 26.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and 2 steals per game. Was absolutely a career year. Well, they both had tremendous years. For Fox, this really was a career year. I just think Fox, 26 years of age, a little bit younger, more athletic, more dynamic. I just think he's got a little bit more to offer. Sabonis is a triple-double machine, one of the premier, if not premier, rebounder within the league. But I've got to go with Fox, and the stat sheet showed Fox as having a bigger impact on Sacramento Kings' success. Now, the Kings outscored opponents by 2.2 points per 100 possessions when Fox played and Sabonis didn't. The minutes that Sabonis logged where Fox wasn't on the court, they lost by 5.6 points per 100 possessions. Now, that is a huge number. If you're a real analytic mind around the NBA, you will understand that a little bit more, but that is a huge swing. If you're not an analytics mind if you're just a casual NBA fan or whatever the case may be. Essentially, Fox is able to keep this team afloat and succeeding when Sabonis isn't playing. Vice versa, when Sabonis is playing, then Fox isn't. It is a drastic drop-off on both ends of the floor. Now, the franchise is absolutely hoping that they can keep both happy, keep both firing as they are, and by adding DeMar DeRozan, hoping to push for a title. They missed out on the playoffs this year after making the playoffs the year prior. Absolutely, the playoffs is the bare minimum this season. But as I said, by adding DeMar DeRozan, they should be well and truly pushing for home court advantage. And I reckon in their minds, they're probably hoping for conference finals. With the talent they possess, that is certainly on the radar. But the West is that strong that it's going to be no easy feat. As I said, tying back around though, if only one could stay, I think Aaron Fox is Sacramento Kings' untouchable player. I'm sure that's going to get some mixed reviews. I'd love to hear from my mate Lachlan McCarthy, a baller in his own right, my kind of, I guess, most well-known Sacramento Kings fan. I'd love to hear your thoughts, buddy. Is it Sabonis or is it Fox? Who are you running with? My second untouchable player from the Washington Wizards is Bilal Coulibaly. Now, he's probably not a household name. If you're a casual NBA fan, you're probably not too well versed in what Coulibaly brings to the table. Now, for the Wizards, the only reason that I didn't say Alex Sarr or even Bub Carrington is because they're both rookies. I wanted to choose players that we've actually seen in the league, seen what they can do. Coulibaly was the number 7 pick in the 2023 draft, played 63 games last season at around 27 minutes per night. In those minutes, he averaged 8.5 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, to go with nearly a block and a steal per game. Now, this was a kind of a really squint to it. Outside of the rookies that Washington possess, like he's the most untouchable player, I believe, because he's essentially a blank canvas. Kuzma, Poole, these guys aren't untouchable. Jonas Valanciunas getting older, not untouchable. I've gone Coulibaly. He's 19 years old. He's a really disruptive defender, which I like. At 6'6", he offers kind of really, I think, high potential on both ends of the floor. The offensive end is a little bit more of a mixed bag at kind of best, you would say. But there's a bit of a baseline there that you could kind of, as I said, if you squint through it, you could kind of see him becoming a high-level 3-and-D wing. He's got enough handles to attack, like those overzealous closeouts. The stroke has a little bit of work to do, a lot more consistency to find there. But as I said, I think the reason I've made him untouchable for the Wizards is that more than anything, he's got that mystery bag appeal. And I think that's a lot more exciting than what anyone else in Washington currently has to offer. They need, at the moment in the capital, they need a lot more projects like Coulibaly. And hopefully Sarr, Carrington, hopefully they can be kind of players in that regard that they can start to build and mold and work around for the future. Because at the moment, this team is going nowhere fast, you would think. But yeah, I think if any player, it would have been Denny Avdia prior to his move, but I've got to go Coulibaly at the moment. Pardon me. Let's go to my third team. We'll go back to the West with the New Orleans Pelicans. We've got Zion Williamson. Now, Zion has only just recently turned 24, and despite what anyone might say, he is an elite player. He truly, truly is. The big worry has been the health concerns. Now, across the 1920 season, he played 24 games. Across the 2021 season, 61 games. Across the 2021-2022 season, 0 games. Across the 2022-2023 season, 29 games. And then last season, played 70 games. Now, For me, the glaring number here is that 70. If he can continue to put up those sorts of numbers year in and year out, there's a good chance he'll fulfill his potential. Coming into the league, he was the most hyped prospect since LeBron James. Wemby has probably overtaken him last year. But that being said, Zion was touted as good as it gets. Now, on the Pelicans, you've got Ingram, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. All those guys have merit to them, absolutely. But Zion is unequivocally 100%. He's the guy. Last season, he averaged 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. Certainly, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most destructive players in the league once he finds himself in the paint. You'd put him up there with Giannis, probably Embiid. These guys are the heavy hitters in the paint that are practically unstoppable. Zion might be the best of them. Now, with DeJounte Murray coming into the fold and CJ McCollum as well, he's going to get great service next year. I truly think he could be set for a career year. And I'm going to say it. I think Zion Williamson could even be a dark horse MVP pick. If he can stay healthy, can stay on the court, Zion, I really think, you're probably looking at Luka, SGA, Jokic again as the top couple of heavy hitters there for the MVP once again. But I think as a dark horse pick, Zion Williamson could be the one to watch out for. What do you reckon? I don't know. I was thinking about this the other night as I was starting to put together the show. He's a guy that's not kind of been mentioned too much as one of the kind of top players within the league. I think with the assets that he's got at his disposal, it's going to be sooner or later before he really puts the foot to the floor and kind of, as I said, realizes that potential. I think it could be this year, and I think the Pelicans have all the makings of a team that could really go deep within the postseason and in the regular season, really high up the standings, which would help his case as well. Would love to hear from you guys. I'll probably put up something during the week around that. Could Zion be an MVP pick? Let me know. Let's go to our fourth team, the Brooklyn Nets. I've got Cam Thomas. Now, it was it was kind of like Washington. The pickings are pretty slim there in Brooklyn at the moment. And you could argue that Claxton is the best young prospect. Day'Ron Sharp, maybe Noah Clowney if you really squint hard enough. If you're super delusional, you could even potentially say Ben Simmons still. I don't know how many people would, but you could certainly argue a case. That being said, I'm going to go with Cam Thomas. He'll be 23 by the time next season starts, and he's probably shown the most progression and potential so far. Defensively, he's not going to offer a lot. Now, you just kind of, you've got to run with that. Offensively, he's a scorer that any team would want at their disposal. And hopefully what he brings on the offensive end more than makes up for what he lacks on the defensive end. Last season, he averaged 22.5 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists, went 44% from the field and 36.5% from 3, not to mention 85.5% from the free throw line. Pretty solid clip there. I think if he can get that 3 ball back up to, it was across the 2022-2023 season, it was around the 38.5%. If he can get that back up into that range, he'll be laughing. I'm super interested to see how they play him this year, if they opt to start him, or if they look to let him cook and bring him off the bench once again. Time will tell, but I think for Brooklyn, he's the guy. He's the guy with the most upside. He's the guy with the most excitement factor. Again, he's another player that's going to get bums and seats in Brooklyn. And at the moment, there's not a lot of incentive to get your ass there to the Barclays Center. Hopefully, Cam Thomas can be that guy. I don't think he's a Zion Williams-esque franchise player, but I think he's probably the best they have and the guy that offers the most as an untouchable player. Cam Thomas, there you go. Let's move ahead to my fifth and final untouchable player here, guys. From the Western Conference, the Memphis Grizzlies, I've gone Ja Morant. Now, despite injury troubles and off-court issues as well, Ja is still that franchise guy. He's elite when he's on the court. And again, being an untouchable player for me doesn't just mean what you bring on court, but off court in terms of getting bums on seats, in terms of merchandise, in terms of hype, in terms of publicity. Granted, Ja's had some pretty negative publicity moments. He's the guy that kids and the next generation are going to want to emulate. Ja is a franchise piece. Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bain, they are quality, absolutely quality. But Ja has that X factor. In another life, he might have been a singer because he has got that X factor. He's an unstoppable force on the offensive end. Truly, once he gets up a full head of steam, nobody in the league can stop him. Since the 2021-2022 season, he's averaged 26.7 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 7.5 assists, plus a steal a game as well. Over the past 2 seasons, the Grizzlies have fared 6.7 points better per 100 possessions with him than without. Now, if you took note of what I said, 5-10 minutes ago regarding the Kings and the points per possession with Sabonis and Fox, a plus 6.7 points per 100 possessions when Ja is on the court as opposed to when he's not is ridiculous. It is absolutely monstrous. And now, granted, a lot of those minutes that Ja wasn't on the court, they were missing other players as well due to injuries. But that is a huge number, 6.7. I believe he's going to be a huge reason as to why the Grizzlies ascend back up the conference standings this season. And to be honest, in my personal opinion, the league needs characters. Love him or hate him, people are talking, people are interested, people want to, be involved in the Ja Morant experience. And you can't put a price on that. He's going to well and truly, if he can stay on the straight and narrow, is going to be one of the new faces of the next era of the NBA. Again, I spoke about it, might have been last week or the week prior, looking at the Zions, looking at the Wembys, looking at the Anthony Edwards, the Luka Doncic, the Ja Morants. Who is going to be the guy who steps up as the face? And Ja has all the makings of that guy. Whether it eventuates or not is another story. The old guard is still hanging on to that at the moment. But Ja is certainly a guy to watch out for in that regard. Guys, there you have it. Let's recap that. There are my 5 untouchable players for next season. No mention whatsoever of trades. These guys are untouchable. My 5 untouchable players for the 2024-2025 season are from the Sacramento Kings, De'Aaron Fox, from the Washington Wizards, Bilal Coulibaly, from the New Orleans Pelicans, we've got Zion Williamson, the Brooklyn Nets, Cam Thomas, and from the Memphis Grizzlies, Ja Morant. Guys, there you have it. There is part 1 of my untouchable players in the league. Next week, I'll be back with another 5 players who I deem untouchable. Again, though, would love to hear what you thought. What I got right, what I got wrong. Would you have potentially gone Sabonis? Do you think Desmond Bain is maybe a safer option? Does Nick Claxton have more upside there in Brooklyn? I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys. So be sure to hit up all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. Share your thoughts with me. I'll be sure to put up a couple of things on all of those during the week and would love to hear your thoughts. As well, whether you're watching this one on YouTube or listening via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other leading podcast providers, would be super appreciative if you could drop a like, subscribe, and probably the biggest thing of all, if you know any other NBA fans out there, I would love for you to share this podcast with them. We really want to start building a community here, and guys, your word of mouth would be huge. I would be incredibly grateful. Nevertheless, I'll leave it at that till next week. Enjoy another week without basketball. Things are going to ramp up very, very soon. The weeks and days are counting down quicker than we can begin to fathom. But I can't wait to share with you part 2 of my untouchable players next week. Till then, have a great week, guys, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.